she thought the greatest betrayal of her life was being disowned at 19. Until the night she received an award funded by the very empire that cast her out. Rachel Palmer, a brilliant environmental scientist, has spent nearly 2 decades building her life from scratch, away from the shadow of her billionaire parents and their ruthless corporation. But when her groundbreaking work is honored at a prestigious gala, she uncovers a secret that shakes her to the core. The funding behind her success is tainted by the very people she vowed never to forgive. Now thrust into a web of secrets, power, plays, and hidden surveillance, Rachel must choose: stay silent and protect the life she's built, or expose a legacy of corruption that could destroy everything, including herself. The ballroom of the Langham Hotel shimmered under the golden chandelier lights, but Rachel Palmer barely noticed the glint. Her mind was spinning, her heart hammering beneath the silk of her midnight blue gown. This night, her night, had been 12 long years in the making. She had been honored with the International Award for Environmental Excellence, a recognition granted only once every 5 years. The announcement had praised her work in ecotoxicology, her innovative teaching methods at Cambridge, and most of all, her relentless fight against industrial pollution in marginalized communities. The applause was deafening. People rose to their feet. Flashes popped as cameras captured her poised smile and trembling hands. Rachel took the stage, cleared her throat, and began. This award isn't just a recognition of science. It's proof that voices, once silenced, can shape the future. But even as she spoke, her eyes caught the logo on the corner of the presentation screen, the Ellis Lennox Foundation. For months, she'd been grateful for their generous grant, $2 million that had given her lab the freedom to dig deeper into water contamination and heavy metal pollutants. Only now, something inside her twisted. Ellis and Lennox, those were her parents' surnames. A coincidence? As the ceremony ended, guests crowded around to shake her hand. Politicians, scientists, activists. But then, from the edge of the room, came a figure she hadn't seen in 18 years. Her mother. "Congratulations, Rachel," the woman said, a bitter edge beneath her forced smile. Rachel froze. Her mouth went dry. "You're here?" "Of course," her mother replied. "You've become quite the public figure. Mosaic Fertilizers is proud to support your research." Rachel's breath caught. The room dimmed around her. She heard only fragments. "Mosaic. Board. Approved the grant. Your father insisted." She took a step back, her voice low. "You mean Mosaic Fertilizers is behind the Ellis Lennox Foundation?" Her mother's smile hardened. "It's all come full circle, hasn't it? The girl who spat on her family name now thrives under its umbrella. Ironic, don't you think?" The words sliced through her like glass. Rachel turned and walked away, heels clacking across the marble floor, fury blooming beneath her ribs. She remembered the night she'd been disowned. 19, fresh out of high school, having chosen community college over her father's legacy, at Stanford. He had called her an embarrassment. Her mother had watched in silence. That was the last she'd seen of them. And now, this. Her life's work unknowingly funded by the same corporation she'd fought against. The very corporation whose runoff toxins she had traced to deformed crops and cancer clusters in rural towns. Back in her flat, she sat at her desk until dawn. She reviewed the grant paperwork again. The trail was subtle, but unmistakable. Shell foundations, tax shelters, Mosaic at the core. All this time, she thought she'd been standing alone, untainted. Now the cracks ran deeper than she knew. But one thing was certain. This story wasn't over. The morning after the gala, rain tapped against the windows like whispers from a world demanding answers. Rachel hadn't slept. Her email inbox had exploded overnight. Reporters, university officials, environmental watchdogs. But one message stood out. From Dean Richard Ellsworth. Subject, urgent, journalistic inquiry regarding Mosaic funding. The message was brief. A journalist from The Guardian was investigating the grant money. The university needed a formal response. Within 48 hours. Rachel pushed her laptop away and stared at the wall. She had always believed that transparency was a cornerstone of science. Now her credibility was on the line. She walked through Cambridge's damp courtyards, each stone step echoing with doubt. By the time she entered her lab, her team was already buzzing with concern. They had seen the articles, the photos, the whisperings. "I owe you all the truth," Rachel began. And for the next hour, she told them everything. Her estranged family, the Mosaic connection, and her own shock at discovering the truth. Silence followed. Then Dr. Neha Singh, her postdoc, said quietly, "You've always fought for the science, Rachel. That hasn't changed." That evening, Rachel dug through her research archives. They had been studying fertilizer runoff from several companies, but Mosaic's samples stood out, elevated cadmium levels far above EU safety limits. Data sets, soil tests, unpublished notes, it was all there. The ethical choice was clear. She couldn't remain silent. She reached out to Maya Patel, a seasoned investigative journalist she had worked with years ago. They met in a quiet tea shop near Regent Street. "This is bigger than anyone realizes," Rachel whispered. "They're poisoning communities, and now they're buying silence with philanthropy." Within days, the story broke like a tidal wave. Tainted roots, Mosaic fertilizers funds, green research while polluting rural England. Byline, Maya Patel, The Guardian. The article featured photos of dead crops, blood reports of villagers with metal toxicity, and a full expose on how Mosaic had laundered its image through the Ellis Lennox Foundation. Rachel's quotes were bold, defiant, unrepentant. Media stormed her inbox. Some called her brave, others called her ungrateful, even disloyal. A week later, Mosaic's stock price dropped 11%, and then came the summons, her mother again. This time in a lawyer's office, flanked by men in sharp suits and sharper expressions. Rachel sat across the table, calm but tense. "You've humiliated the family," her mother spat. "Your father, he's unwell. You've destroyed him." Rachel leaned forward, eyes steel. "No, he destroyed himself. I just turned on the lights." The room went still. Then Rachel stood and left. Outside, the sky had cleared. She exhaled for the first time in days. But deep inside, she knew this wasn't the end. This was just the middle of the war. Rachel's first instinct was to bury the truth, the Mosaic fertilizers connection. She wished she had never found it. The thought of her life's greatest honor being tainted by a corporation she had sworn to challenge made her stomach churn. Yet ignoring it wasn't in her nature. She had spent her entire career holding others accountable. How could she now turn a blind eye to the source of her own funding? Back in her office at Cambridge, Rachel sat at her desk with a legal pad full of scribbles and a browser history full of environmental violations. Mosaic fertilizers had been linked to chemical spills in at least 4 different countries, each case quietly settled or buried under complex layers of subcontractors and shell companies. But what shocked her most was how closely some of the documented incidents matched the very case studies she used in her classes, cases she'd thought were isolated examples of corporate negligence. She picked up her phone and dialed Anna, her research assistant. "Can you come in early tomorrow? I need to dig deeper into the Mosaic funding chain." Quietly. "No one else can know about this yet," Rachel said. "Of course. Is everything okay?" Anna replied. "Not yet," Rachel murmured, hanging up. That night, sleep was impossible. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. "You're so smart, but still so naive." What did she mean by that? Was she warning Rachel or mocking her? In a moment of impulse, Rachel called her old mentor, Professor Ed Whitmore. Ed had been her rock during her Oxford years, a quiet but brilliant man with deep connections in both academia and the industry. "Rachel, it's been too long," he said warmly. "I saw your award on the news. You've done wonders." "Thanks, Ed. I need your help." She told him everything, about the gala, the confrontation with her mother, the Mosaic grant. Ed listened carefully, then asked, "Do you have proof that the grant came directly from Mosaic?" "Only the university record showing the donation came from the Palmer Initiative," she said. "But that's just a shell. It links back to Mosaic's offshore philanthropic fund." There was a long silence. "I suspected they might try something like this eventually," Ed said. They've been doing quiet philanthropy for years, funding green projects, sponsoring fellowships, offering internships, trying to repair their image while continuing damage elsewhere. But why me? Rachel asked. Why now? I don't know. But Mosaic doesn't do anything without strategy. They're either trying to control you or use you. Rachel sat back in her chair, heart pounding. Then I need to expose them. Ed's voice dropped. If you go down that road, be prepared. Mosaic doesn't just defend their image, they destroy threats. The next morning, Rachel met Anna in the lab. They traced donation records, accessed obscure charity watchdog reports, and cross-referenced names of board members. Each layer revealed a carefully constructed puzzle of influence. Anna looked up from her screen. This is bad. Mosaic has been embedding itself into green energy startups, academic chairs, and even climate policy conferences. It's infiltration masked as investment, Rachel said. They're trying to co-opt the narrative of sustainability. Just then, Rachel received an anonymous email. Subject: Are you ready to see what your father really paid for? Attached was a PDF titled Mirror Grant Internal Memo. The sender was untraceable, the address a throwaway. Rachel clicked the file, hands trembling. Inside, she found internal documents from Mosaic's strategic planning department. The memo outlined how Rachel's award would serve as a symbolic redemption for the Palmer family name, helping Mosaic position itself as an ally in green science. There were even quotes attributed to board members. Let her think it's her own victory. When the time comes, we'll remind her who gave her the mirror to look into. Rachel stared at the screen, rage and disbelief colliding. They never stopped watching. They never truly let her go. That evening, Rachel stood before a packed hall of university staff and donors at a post-award lecture series. Her talk was supposed to be about sustainable future technologies. She stood at the podium, pages of notes in her hands. She looked down at them, then set them aside. I had planned a technical lecture, she began, her voice steady, but something more urgent demands to be said. The room hushed. I recently learned that the grant which funded my research, the very one this award recognizes, was tied to Mosaic Fertilizers, the industrial empire run by my estranged parents. A few gasps broke the silence. For over a decade, I have worked to dismantle the environmental harm corporations like Mosaic have caused. I thought I had escaped their influence. I was wrong. Rachel scanned the room. Her voice grew stronger. This grant wasn't a gift. It was bait. A symbol meant to suggest that redemption could be bought, that reputation can be laundered through the lives of people trying to do good. She paused. I refuse to be part of their rebranding campaign. Effective today, I am returning the grant. My lab will seek alternate funding, and I will be launching an independent investigation into the corporate infiltration of green academia. The room erupted into murmurs and whispers. Some stood in shock, others in silent admiration. Afterward, a young student approached her. That was the bravest thing I've ever seen. Rachel forced a small smile. But she knew this was just the beginning. As she stepped into the cold evening air outside the lecture hall, her phone buzzed with a new message. We warned you not to break the mirror. The message chilled Rachel to her core. We warned you not to break the mirror. No sender, no number. Just those words, simple, cryptic, and terrifying. Rachel stared at her phone screen in the dark, the light illuminating her face like a ghost. It wasn't just a warning, it was a threat. And it confirmed what she already feared. Mosaic was watching her closely, and they didn't take betrayal lightly. She locked the phone and sat in silence. Outside her apartment, the Cambridge streets were quiet, but her mind buzzed with noise. There was no turning back now. She had made a very public move, and the machine behind Mosaic would not let her go unpunished. The next morning, Rachel found her office door ajar. She stopped mid-step. Her hand instinctively reached for the pepper spray on her keychain. Slowly, she pushed the door open. The lights were off. Nothing seemed out of place at first. But then she noticed her laptop was missing. Her hard copies, her handwritten notes, data logs, draft manuscripts were all still there, but the one device with everything consolidated was gone. Anna rushed in behind her. Wait, where's your laptop? Rachel shook her head. It was here when I left last night. Should we call security? No. Not yet, Rachel whispered. They'll just think it was random theft. But this wasn't random. It was precise. Rachel turned to Anna. We need to back up. Everything else today, get our data onto secure encrypted drives and keep them offline. If they have 1 copy, we need 10. Later that afternoon, Rachel met with Professor Whitmore again, this time in a quiet cafe outside the city. He listened as she recounted the intrusion. They're moving faster than I thought, he said grimly. You humiliated them. That lecture went viral overnight. You're being called the professor who bit the hand that fed her. And Mosaic doesn't like martyrs. Rachel sipped her coffee, then leaned in. Then let's give them a reason to be nervous. Whitmore raised an eyebrow. You have a plan? Rachel nodded. We launch an independent report, anonymous whistleblower style. We publish Mosaic's infiltration patterns, how they fund, manipulate, and coerce. We let the world see how deep this goes. But first, I need protection. You want to go public but stay safe? He asked. No, she said, her eyes locked on his. I want to go public and stay dangerous. By the end of the week, Rachel had formed a covert alliance. Academics, environmental journalists, a few brave legal experts, and even 2 former Mosaic employees, whistleblowers who had once signed strict NDAs but were willing to talk anonymously. She called it Project Looking Glass. Working from secure locations, the group began compiling a digital dossier on Mosaic's global operations. Every scandal hushed, every activist silenced, every fake charity front. All traced, documented, verified. Anna proved invaluable, navigating dark web leaks, charity databases, and hidden PDF metadata like a digital archaeologist. You know, she joked one night, for a company so obsessed with controlling the mirror, they sure left a lot of cracks. Rachel smiled faintly, but beneath it, a storm brewed. One night, as she returned to her flat, she noticed a black sedan parked across the street. The engine was running, the windows were tinted. She waited. 5 minutes passed. The car didn't move. Rachel entered her building, heart racing. Inside, she checked every lock, every window. She pulled the blinds closed and turned off the lights. When she checked her email later, there was a new message. You're not the only one who knows how to play this game. Stop now, and this ends quietly. Attached was a photo of Anna, taken that same morning as she exited the university building. Rachel's breath caught. Her hand flew to her mouth. It was no longer just about her. Mosaic was now targeting the people helping her. She called Anna immediately. Don't go home tonight. Stay with friends. Somewhere Mosaic won't expect. Take only the essentials. I'll send someone I trust. Anna didn't argue. She knew what was at stake. The next day, Rachel took the flash drive containing Project Looking Glass and delivered it by hand to a journalist at The Guardian, one who had been investigating Mosaic for years but lacked the inside proof to publish. I'll verify it all, the journalist said. But if this is real, this could bring them to their knees. Rachel nodded. Just make sure it's published before they bring us to ours. That night, Rachel received another message. The glass shatters tomorrow. She didn't sleep. The next morning, all hell broke loose. An anonymous exposé flooded the internet. The Greenwashing Empire: How Mosaic Fertilizers Hijacked Academia. The report detailed everything: corporate manipulation, financial trails, blackmail tactics, and real case studies of poisoned communities buried under Mosaic's PR campaigns. Social media exploded. News anchors debated ethics. Protesters appeared outside Mosaic's London office. And then, a bigger twist. A Mosaic executive resigned live on television, confirming key portions of the leak and apologizing for his role. Rachel watched in stunned silence. It had worked. Project Looking Glass had become a tidal wave. But as Rachel walked to campus later that day, a man in a gray coat brushed past her on the sidewalk. Miss Palmer, he whispered, She stopped and turned, but he was already disappearing into the crowd. Her phone buzzed. Another message. You may have broken the mirror, but be careful where the shards fall. Rachel exhaled slowly. Victory came at a price, and the war was far from over. The university halls felt different now. Colleagues who once politely nodded now offered her long stares or nervous smiles. Some treated her like a hero, others avoided her entirely. She had detonated a truth bomb right in the heart of the academic world, and the fallout was still settling. Rachel Palmer, once just a respected professor of environmental chemistry, was now a symbol of resistance, of defiance, and for some, of betrayal. She sat alone in her office, sunlight streaming through half-closed blinds. A folder lay open on her desk, filled with job offers from NGOs, think tanks, even a government science advisory panel. But Rachel couldn't shake the unease in her stomach. She had pulled the curtain back on Mosaic, but had she truly stopped them? A knock came. It was Anna, back after several days in hiding. They're quiet now, she said cautiously, sitting across from Rachel. No more cars, no more messages. Maybe they're regrouping. Rachel leaned back. Or maybe they're choosing a different mask. Anna reached into her bag and placed something on the desk. It was Rachel's old laptop. I found it in a parcel locker, Anna explained. No return address. I almost didn't open it. But I checked it. It hasn't been tampered with. It's just been returned. Rachel stared at it in silence. A calculated move. Mosaic wasn't afraid. They were signaling. We see you. We could have destroyed this, but we didn't. Don't forget. Later that evening, Rachel met again with Professor Whitmore. He looked more worn than usual, but his eyes gleamed with admiration. You caused a stir no one thought possible. They haven't come after me yet, Rachel said. They won't, not directly. Too visible now. But I'd still watch your back. He paused. Did you hear the board is splitting Mosaic's education arm into a separate foundation? Rachel raised an eyebrow. Damage control. And they offered you the chance to head it, Whitmore added. Under your terms. Rachel's expression darkened. You're joking. I'm not. The board thinks bringing you in might salvage their public image. They burned bridges, poisoned communities, bribed institutions, and now they want me to repaint the walls while the foundation cracks? Whitmore chuckled grimly. It's a trap wrapped in a promotion. Rachel looked out the window. Sometimes, she said slowly, to rebuild something clean, you have to walk through the ashes. Weeks passed. Rachel declined the board's offer but took a different path. She launched an independent institute, the Palmer Initiative, focused on clean funding, transparency in research, and whistleblower protection in academia. The world was watching now. Her name carried weight. The Palmer Initiative attracted global partners, scientists, and students hungry for integrity. Anna became its cybersecurity chief. Whitmore served on the advisory board, and Rachel, for the first time, felt like she was not just reacting to Mosaic, but rewriting the rules. They once used to control her. But one final confrontation remained. Rachel's parents. She hadn't spoken to them since the gala. But now that Mosaic's name was tarnished and its educational deals dissolving, she received a hand-delivered note. Come home. Your father wishes to see you. Mother. She debated it for days. Then finally she drove out to their countryside, estate. The same home she had once stormed away from as a teenager with nothing but a scholarship letter and a duffel bag. The house hadn't changed. Marble pillars, silent fountains, expensive silence. Her mother greeted her stiffly. Her father, now visibly older, frailer, was waiting in his study. I suppose you've come to gloat, he rasped. No, Rachel said. I came to ask why. He chuckled bitterly. Why what? Why fund me through your company after cutting me off? Why give me the grant? Why the award, the support, the silence? Her father leaned back, the weight of his empire pressing on his shoulders. You wanted to prove yourself without us. So I let you. But I watched. When you succeeded, I saw what you could do. I thought, maybe if we supported you from the shadows, You'd come back. Maybe you'd see we weren't your enemies. Rachel shook her head. You didn't support me. You tried to control me, from behind the mirror. He looked away. It was the only way I knew. Silence filled the room. Finally, Rachel stood. If you ever want a relationship, it won't be on the ruins of control. I broke your mirror for a reason. I won't look into it again. Months later, Rachel stood on stage once more. But this time, it was her own conference. Reflections, science with integrity, attended by thousands across the globe. She didn't wear a borrowed designer dress. She wore her lab coat. No grant, she told the crowd, should come with a leash. No student should fear truth, and no corporation should own the lens through which we see the world. Thunderous applause. She stepped back, tears in her eyes, not from grief, but from clarity. That night, alone in her office, she caught her reflection in the darkened window. A shadow behind her moved, just her own. No threats, no watchers, just her. The mirror hadn't broken her. She had shattered it. And from the shards, she had built something stronger, something real.